How's it going? Be on the benches. It's your man once again, JT, coming at you to talk about these Miami Dolphins. As obviously a big day for us, and lots of news and lots of stuff going down. So obviously coming on here to share my thoughts and opinions. And obviously a lot of you that have been following my videos, probably know I'm not going to be too happy about the firing of Adam Gase that went down this morning. But I do have some thoughts about it, and I'm certainly not going to come on here and scream and rage and rant. I do understand the move at least partially, which I'll get into later. But now Chris Grier has been, promoted to Vice President of Football Operations. We've seen Mike Tannenbaum be put somewhere else on the team. They really haven't disclosed, but he's not going to have any more football personnel say. So it's essentially what a lot of Dolphin fans are going to want. And so we'll see. I think my biggest thing is, even as somebody who has been the Gase defender, one of the things I will say is he kind of went from a bit of a player's coach his first year to really focusing on culture and kind of like a Bill Belichick's way. And, it's all about him and the team first and getting rid of players that, were a problem. And that only goes so far. That's only going to last you so long without the results. The Belichick way gets old when you're going 8-8, 7-9. It's one thing when you win Super Bowls. When the results aren't there, that gets very old very quickly. I think you saw that in the way the guys like Jordan Phillips and Jarvis Landry reacted on Twitter, who have had problems with Gase with their departures. There's a report out there that Kenyon Drake was going to ask to be traded if Gase wasn't fired. Man, lots of noise going on. People working outside. Come out here for some peace and quiet, huh? But obviously, so that stuff only is going to last you so long when you have that kind of relationship with the players and, the results aren't there. So to that kind of extent, I can kind of see it if some of the players weren't buying into the head coaching situation. But on the other end, I think Adam Gase was going to become a head coach. I think at the very least he'll be a good OC out there somewhere, if not a good head coach for somebody else. And especially with Chris Grier just kind of being promoted more into power, you could have taken away Tannenbaum, moved Grier up. Gase could have been there. You could have taken some of the personnel power away from him and made Grier, in charge of all that stuff. Then at that point, you're just a good DC away, in my opinion, from turning things around. And you're not going to have to go through what's looking like a complete rebuild under Chris Grier for the Dolphins. So, that's one thing that kind of frustrates me. You're talking about a head coaching committee now with 8-9 teams out there looking for coaches. And I would say the Dolphins maybe have the 6th most desirable job. Like, I think we're right there with Cincinnati and the Bucks. Like, there's not a lot of top head coaches that are going to want to pick us unless they're just in love with Miami or in love with the people here. And that's just the fact of it. So, I think Adam Gase is probably going to be a lot better off without us than we're going to be without him. And I'm still not really convinced in this move. But, I am, at least excited to see that this isn't just about Gase and that, Tannehill is expected to maybe not even be here next year, let alone drafting another quarterback to compete with him. Tannenbaum, has been relieved of power. And so there should be some changes coming along to the Miami Dolphins organization from top to bottom. Stephen Ross said, he's been pleased with what the Dolphins have been as far as a franchise, but except for the play on the field. He hasn't been excited there, and he wants us to reshape and get there. And he's flat out said, even if it takes a year or two, we're going to get there. That sounds a lot like a rebuild. And so my initial reaction is I don't know who the next head coach is going to be. I'll be here with you guys as I hear rumors. There's a few names already that the Dolphins have asked to talk to. But, other than that, we'll have to just kind of sit back and see. But I don't think this team's going to be very competitive next year. Just my initial thought. I think they're going to be just rebuilding too much this offseason, and really the only hope is not to build a winner next year, but to hope that they are laying the kind of foundation that can build a winner over time. So, again, Chris Grier now in charge. Adam Gase is gone. Chris Grier is going to have to be in charge of finding, either an assistant GM if he wants one, a head coach. that coach, and Greer are going to set up a coaching staff. Everything's going to pretty much be rebuilt in a lot of ways, and I think the roster is going to see some serious changes. The one good news is with Greer getting promoted, I think guys like Xavier Howard and Laramie Tunsil are going to get big-time contract extensions and kind of be the building blocks of these franchise because they're guys that Greer drafted. So, we'll see. Again, I'm not feeling too optimistic right now. I just got to be honest. I would have much rather, especially if we're not bringing in. It was one thing if you brought in a totally new vice president, or hired somebody from another team, because then to force them to work with all these guys they haven't worked with in the past, that, just didn't sound like a recipe for success. To promote from within and also fire your head coach, I don't agree with it, but let me know what you guys think. Honestly, I can't dwell on the past. Adam Gase is gone, and the only thing we can hope for now is to find the right new head coach, and that Chris Greer builds this team in a way that is successful. And he has a lot of experience. He has 20 years experience doing this in the NFL. So I'm going to trust Chris Greer and hope for the best, And obviously, like I said, I don't think we're going to be good in the short term, but I'll be hoping us to be good in the short term and long term. I'll still be here. I'll still be repping this team. But let me know what you guys think. A couple of questions. Would you have fired Adam Gase? And who should the Miami Dolphins hire now as head coach?